So I'm going to take you on a little tour of the church to show you where everything is and just to explain a little bit of the history. Here we have something very new, our hand sanitizing stations. And when we're having services at the moment, we have to make sure that people are seated 2 meters apart and are not interacting with each other at the moment. But our services, apart from funerals, are not taking place at the moment because we don't believe it's safe to do so. So as I walk in, you see the font. The font is used for baptism, and it's near the door so we can welcome people into the church where they begin their journey of faith. In here, we have the room under the tower. The tower was built in the 13th century, and it has a ring of 8 bells, and they are in there, in the tower. It's usually used as a storeroom at the moment, but it's a very big room, and it's called the Consistory Court because before the Victorian times, courts used to happen in church, and one of them used to happen here in Snaith. You can see right down the nave there, the main body of the church, and you can see the pews that are in there. Those pews have only been in since the Victorian times. Before that, the church would have had no pews in it, and it would have been used for so many things because it's such a vast space. And so in the medieval period, it would have been used as a market and a meeting place for people. It was a place that lots and lots of different people used every day of the week. So as we walk around, we see more recently we had a kitchen and toilet put in, and that came in a great useful way during the floods, where we would be able to use the church as a place for refuge. At the moment, we've got tables everywhere telling you not to go different places because of COVID. In our church, we have many stained glass windows, and they help to tell Bible stories. And they were often used because people couldn't read, but they could see the stories in the window. So they would hear the stories from the priest, who was somebody who could read, and then they would look at them in the windows. Here we have a memorial to RAF Stath, which was at Pollington during the Second World War. And we remember here all the people who fell during that conflict, both of the 150 Squadron, which no longer exists, and the 51 Squadron, which is now based at RAF Waddington in Lincolnshire. So around we go. You see over the years we've had a heating system put in, but it's still cold. We have the organ. The organ pipes don't work anymore. They're not connected anymore. We have an electric organ, and at the moment we're not allowed to sing, but when we are, we sing along to this organ. Round we go. You'll notice there are lots of banners around. During the recent roof repairs, we also had money from the lottery to come up with some historical information on banners. So when you are able to come back in church, you will be able to look at them. Here is the pulpit, and above it you will see the hymn board that has the numbers of the hymns on so that we're able to see which hymn we are singing. And then we come into the chancel, the most holy bit of the church. It's where the Holy Communion is celebrated in the sanctuary, which is at the end where the table with the candles, the altar is. You'll also see on the floor there are 2 yellow pieces of tape. That's where a bride and groom would stand to say their wedding vows. That's there for COVID, for them to know where to stand and not be too near me. And you'll see that also on the floor there's another piece of tape to tell me where to stand. But this is where, if you get married here, you will say your marriage vows here. Also, just in front of this candle that's here, this is where we would conduct funerals from. This is where the coffin would be in church when we say farewell to somebody in their funeral. And behind them a candle is lit. This is the Easter candle to remind them that Jesus is the light of the world, the candle that reminds us of the resurrection of Jesus. And this year, it's a bit homemade because, of course, we were not in church for last Easter because of COVID, and we hope to be back for Easter 2021, but we didn't buy, it's called a Paschal candle, we didn't buy one this year because they are actually very expensive and it's not been used very much. So that's my DIY one, telling us that Jesus Christ is risen. You've got the Greek letters Alpha and Omega, the first letter and last letter of the Greek alphabet, which reminds us that Jesus is the beginning and the end of everything. And we put the year that we put that in church on so people know which year of our Lord it is. So we move round a little bit further. This chancel used to have lots of pews in for the choir, but it doesn't anymore because we don't have a weekly church choir anymore. So we're going to go into the side chapel now. And this is the Stapleton Chapel. These are people who were based historically at Carlton Towers. There's a memorial here, and this memorial is for the Right Honourable the Lady Elizabeth Stapleton, and it was put here in 1683. Now, the Stapleton family were Roman Catholic, and so actually this chapel is not Church of England, it's probably still a Roman Catholic chapel. But we use this as a little side chapel, and at the moment you'll see the nativity figures have yet to be put away because people haven't been able to come in church. So they're just taking refuge in the Stapleton Chapel at the moment. It's also the place that we use for people to sign the register when they've got married. And so that's the special table we use to register their marriage. So we come out, we go into the sanctuary. We have the sanctuary rails here, so people, when they kneel down to take communion, have something to lean against, as it were. This is the altar, the special table. You'll notice it's got purple on it at the moment, and that's because in Lent, it's a sad season, a season of waiting, and so it's purple, the altar frontal. On Easter Sunday, that will be white because Easter is a happy season. So I'll take you around the back of here. We have the Mothers' Union banner. Around the back of the altar, you'll see the remnants of the Nativity, which is not yet to be cleared up. And you will see the view that I have out when I bless the bread and wine. It's a long way to the back of the church from here. Here as well, we have a little hole in the wall, which I think was originally used to store the bread and the wine, and also for the priests to wash their hands symbolically before they did the blessing of the bread and wine. We have here a stool, which the plate shouldn't be on top of it. That's just there because it's not on the windowsill at the moment. But this stool was used by a page in 1953 at the coronation of our Queen, and they were sold off after she was crowned, and so we have one here. Then down in the floor of the sanctuary we have the grave of the last abbot of Selby, and Snaith Priory is a daughter church of Selby Abbey, and when it was first opened over 1,000 years ago, it had a set of monks who lived here and who prayed for the community. As we go around, we come into another side chapel here. This is the Dorney Chapel, and the Dorney family were very important around here. They built the churches at Pollington, Hensall and at Cowick. Here you have a monument, a tomb monument to one of the Dorney family. And underneath here, there is a crypt. Now, a crypt is where you... sorry, that's probably just slipped over. Crypt is where you lay down coffins. So under here, we have a number of coffins of Dorney family members. There we have Viscount Downes' statue, and he was a member of the Dorney family. It's a very big statue. It's by Francis Chantry. who was a very famous sculptor of the time. I, to be honest, think it's quite creepy, especially when you're in here at night. And then here we have the rood loft, which has some steps going up it, which you can't get up anymore. You probably can't see it, actually, it's too dark. But there are steps that go up, and that would take you to the rood loft. There used to be a big screen across here, and up there, I'm not sure if you can see it, there's a little opening where the priest used to be able to look out and see who was there in his congregation. And just in the wall here, there is a memorial to an early saint, Saint Stath, who we think was probably from Italy. And if you look very carefully, you can see a silhouette of the statue that used to be in here. At the Reformation, that statue was destroyed. And then in our children's corner now, everything's covered up. This is the oldest part of the church. This is about 1200, and there would have been statues in the wall before the Reformation. And so we walk back up the side aisle, and just one more thing to show you before I go. And this is going to be very wobbly, isn't it? This is the church warden's chest. It stores Christmas decorations in it now. But this chest is one that has 3 locks on it. And it was so nothing dodgy could go on. Everything was stored in that chest, and there were 3 locks. The vicar had 1 key, and 2 church wardens had the other keys. And it could be only opened when they were all here together. So that's Snaith Priory, and I hope you've learnt something from that.